Top 15 NFL memes that have us crying of laughter halfway through the season.
If you are brand new to our channel, we invite you to take a moment to subscribe. Just click on the lit red button as well as the gray bell. Why the bell? Well, it will let you know every time we post a new video.
15.
Primetime. When the season first started, the vast majority of NFL fans knew that the Miami Dolphins were going to suck. Sorry if you are a Dolphins fan, but as soon as they announced Jay Cutler, you knew what was going down. And we thought that the only person who didn't know what was going to happen was the dumb ass who hired Jay Cutler to a multi-million-dollar contract in the first place. Well, it turns out that there are a few TV executives who also didn't get the memo. Why are we saying that? Well, maybe, just maybe, because someone high up in the world of TV executives decided to put the Miami Dolphins on primetime television 3 weeks in a row. Perhaps they are just a rival fan who wanted everyone to watch Miami lose. But let's be honest, those games were just terrible. Now, we just hope that whoever was behind it filled their quota. Do whatever they need to do. We just don't want to watch the Dolphins play anymore, please.
14.
14. Still not done. So, we are halfway through the 2017 season, and people still have not let go of the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan and his buddies are putting up solid numbers in an okay season that is still good despite not being anywhere near what they did last year. And perhaps that is for the best. Just imagine if they made it to the Super Bowl again only to blow another 28-3 lead. The good folks at Walmart seem to have not forgotten that yet and are still taking shots at the Falcons. As this new season is concerned, the Falcons are solid, like we said, but their division, which was terrible last year, is shaping up to be the strongest in the NFL this season. The Saints' defense seems to have had an epiphany early in the season, and has helped the team to a 7-2 record. Cam Newton was reborn, and the Panthers are 7-3. Now, the 5-4 Falcons seem to be trying to fight for a wild card spot.
13.
13. Cowboys Time. If there is one person we would not want to be in the NFL today, it is Dak Prescott. The Dallas Cowboys quarterback has been solidifying himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but if their game against the Falcons showed anything, it is that he desperately needs a new offensive line. The 7-27 loss was undercut by the amount of times that the Falcons got to Prescott. The young quarterback, who is leading his underachieving team to a 5-4 record so far this season, was sacked nothing less than 8 times by the Falcons. Yes, that is not counting the amount of times he was walloped as he attempted 6 rushes in that game as well. Those sacks accounted for a loss of 50 yards. That is half of the freaking field. The one thing Cowboys fans should be afraid of now is that, if they don't improve the defensive line, Prescott could eventually get injured, and what would they do then? 12. Bad luck. Andrew Luck was one of those quarterbacks who had been steadily improving season after season. Just last year, the guy had some ridiculous numbers, leading the Colts to an 8-7 record in the NFL. In 2016, Luck threw for 40 yards, 31 touchdowns, and just 13 interceptions, which are very appealing numbers in a past-first league like today's NFL. At some point during the preseason, however, it seems like Luck, pun intended, ran into a period of bad luck. The guy suffered an injury setback early in the season, and had to leave his team hanging for 2017. There was some hope that he would return halfway through the season, but earlier in November, he suffered another setback. And now, it seems like Luck won't be back for the remainder of the year. And what does that mean? It means that the 3-7 Indianapolis Colts will have to play the rest of the season behind 24-year-old quarterback Jacoby Brissett. 11. Poor Broncos. Another team that seems to deserve everyone's pity is the Denver Broncos. A team that not too long ago had a quarterback of the caliber of Peyton Manning leading the charge, now seems to be nothing less than a punching bag for other teams to make fun of. Everyone knew that going into their Week 9 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Broncos were in for a beating, but no one expected it to be as bad as it turned out. Carson Wentz, one of the new quarterback sensations of the season, threw for nothing less than 4 touchdowns and just 199 yards. Meanwhile, Brock Osweiler threw for 280 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And that has been the story of this season for Denver. Oh yeah, let's not forget to mention that just a week after they got trounced 51-23 by the Eagles, Denver hosted the New England Patriots, and you all know how that went. Tom Brady led the charge, and the Patriots got the 41-16 away victory.
10.
10. Kaepernick. The story of the season in the NFL has been a man who is not even in the league anymore. Maybe he should be, or maybe he shouldn't be. People have made arguments for both, and either side has positive points. The people who think that Kaepernick should be on a team right now argue that there are terrible starting quarterbacks in the NFL worse than Kaepernick. And we don't think anyone would deny that 3 or 4 years ago, when Kaepernick was actually good. The people who think that Kaepernick should not have a job in the NFL argue that the man was terrible the last time he was a starter, which is also true. We will let you pick and choose whatever side you want, and not throw a hat on this race. After all, there is no way to win this conversation. Meanwhile, Kaepernick doesn't seem that worried about getting his playing job back. As you see on this meme, he has been happily performing as the cable guy during MLB games.
9.
9. The worst trade ever. When we think things could not get any worse, the Miami Dolphins go ahead and make hell seem like a beautiful place. Seriously, we have no idea how outraged a Dolphins fan must be right now. Perhaps the only silver lining in their terrible season was that they seemed to have found a good running back that could help with the offense when Ryan Tannehill returned in JJ. If you look at their record, all of the games the Dolphins won were games in which Ajayi played well. But since nothing makes sense in Miami, the front office decided to trade the guy for scraps. The Philadelphia Eagles were already one of the best teams in the league before they managed to acquire this 24-year-old Pro Bowl running back. And the punchline is in what they had to give up to get JJ to Philadelphia. Not a good player, not a veteran, not a prospect. The only thing they had to send to Miami was a 4th-round pick.
8.
8. The Cowboys again. We have talked about how terrible the Dallas Cowboys offensive line is. We have talked about how Dak Prescott seems to be in serious danger of getting injured because of how many times he's getting hit. But more than anything else, we had yet to talk about the man they call Ezekiel Elliott. The guy is one of the best running backs in the league right now, and there is no way around it. The only problem is that Elliott had been feeding on appeals to postpone the inevitable suspension the NFL imposed on him because of a domestic abuse issue. Well, it turns out that Elliott and his lawyers finally ran out of appeals, and the suspension has finally taken place. And what happened during the first game of his 6-game suspension? The Cowboys got destroyed. That was the game Prescott got sacked 8 times. The 7-27 loss to the Falcons was just a prelude to what is going to happen to the Cowboys for the next 5 games without Elliott.
7.
7. The future. By now, Ezekiel Elliott has run out of appeals, so this meme is only half true. The other half, however, is so true that we thought it was enough for this meme to warrant a place on our list. There is no need to mention that since Elliott ran out of appeals, the Cowboys are probably not going to make the playoffs this year. On the other hand, no one had any doubt that the Cleveland Browns would be doing nothing but fighting for the number 1 pick next year. Then again, what is the point of getting the number 1 pick if you always draft the wrong guy? It is almost too sad to imagine what a Cleveland fan has to go through during the NFL season. To cheer for the Browns, you really have to be fanatic. And, we are sorry to say it, but the way things are going, it seems like this is going to be the case for the next century or so. If you don't believe us, just take this in. The last time the Browns had a winning season, George W. Bush was still president.
6.
6. Terrible math. It is almost like the Cleveland Browns don't want to be good. The thing about the Browns is that they have always searched for an elite quarterback to add to their roster. They have tried it over and over again, but it just doesn't seem like they can draft that elite quarterback. So, what would be the sensible thing for a team to do in that situation? Trade for a quarterback who could become elite, right? As it turns out, the Browns had a chance to trade for no one other than Jimmy Garoppolo. All they needed to give up extra was a second-rounder, and they still did not do it. Let us just remember that the guy currently under center for the Browns is a 21-year-old quarterback named Deshaun Kaiser. Nothing against the kid, but in 8 games as a starter, he has thrown 4 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Meanwhile, Jimmy has spent his entire career playing behind and learning from Tom Brady. Not to mention that when he played, the guy was good. He is 2-0 in NFL starts with 4 touchdowns thrown and no interceptions.
5.
5. Sunday is an off day. Almost everyone in the world has an off day on Sundays. That is the day you want to spend in its entirety with your family and friends, enjoying a beer or a nice lunch, while trying to forget the fact that you have to go back to work on Monday. Football players don't usually get that opportunity. Sunday is when these guys make their bread and butter. Sundays are when the majority of NFL games are played. And since the Denver Broncos are an NFL team, we assumed that they actually worked on Sundays. However, if you take a good look at their season, you may realize that the Broncos seem to be having off days every Sunday. These guys just don't seem like they are playing football at an NFL level. Sure, they are not the Browns, but they are not good either. We don't know if Sundays are really their problem, but if they are, we can expect a top draft pick from the Broncos, since they only have 1 Thursday game left on their schedule.
4.
4. The Giants. There are several storylines of underachieving teams in the NFL this season. Seriously, there is no lack of teams that not everyone thought were going to be good, and ended up being just terrible. Some of them happened because of injuries, like the Indianapolis Colts. Meanwhile, some others just turned out to be terrible. That is the case with the 1-8 New York Giants. It is not like anyone was touting the Giants to be a Super Bowl contender, but they did get to a wild-card game last season, and they had the best receiver in football on their roster. However, with Odell Beckham Jr. suffering a season-ending injury in October, the little hope there was for a comeback for the Giants this year vanished just like that. All the tragedy aside, no one thought they would end up going 1-8. More than that, we doubt anyone believed the Giants could go on to lose to the 0-9 San Francisco 49ers.
3.
3. The future. So, we have come to the conclusion that there really is no saving grace for the Cleveland Browns. And the big reason behind the Browns not being able to amount to anything in the NFL for the past 2, maybe 3, decades is the fact that they never really had a solid quarterback. We have talked about how they failed to acquire an elite prospect through the draft despite having a ridiculous number of chances and picks to get it done. And we also have approached the subject that even though they had a chance to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, they decided he was not worth a second-round pick. Now, we have to wonder who the hell they are going to select with that pick. But in the meantime, we can also remember how history does not really favor them for picking a good quarterback. If we check out the rosters, the Browns had 16 different passing leaders since Bernie Kosar in 1991. How many do you think they will have until 28-33?
2.
2. That hug. We have had several hilarious moments in the NFL this season, but none comes even close to when AJ Green decided to choke out Jalen Ramsey. This was so out of nowhere that it caught everyone off guard and turned into a meme instantly. Despite so many teams struggling and other funny things happening around the NFL, this has to be the best recent event for meme creators who focus on the league. Honestly, we cannot blame AJ Green for getting pissed off every once in a while. After all, this guy is playing for the Bengals. The only reason Cincinnati is not the worst team in their division is because the Cleveland Browns are there as well. Either way, we don't know what Ramsey said to Green in order for the whole confusion to start, but aside from the hilarious memes, the fight also earned AJ Green a nice $42,000 fine from the NFL.
1.
1. Come on, Eli. Perhaps the saddest thing about the Giants having the horrible season they are having is the fact that Eli Manning is having a regular season for his standards. Don't tell this to a Giants fan, but Eli was never an elite quarterback, and his numbers are enough to prove that. This is a guy who, through his entire career, got lucky if he had a 2-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And for better or for worse, he is doing better than 2-1 this year. So far, in 9 games, Manning has thrown for 293 yards, 14 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions. And that is all without Odell Beckham Jr. available through most of the season. We are not saying that Eli is playing well, but we can't say that the fault is entirely his for the Giants' 1-8 record. Their offense does stink, but the Giants' defense is even worse. They are the second worst pass defense in the NFL, losing only to the Jets.
You